What's up, guys? Welcome to Demo with Mo. I'm your host, Monique Simmons. We'll be discussing dating, engaged, and married objectives from a young Christian's perspective. Are you guys ready? Let's dive in. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Demo with Mo. I am your host, Monique Simmons, and this is going to be our last episode of 2023, and it has been an absolute pleasure recording this year. This year has been a whirlwind, full of ups and downs. But I count it all joy. I absolutely count it all joy, the good and the bad, because you know what? As Romans 8:28 says, it's all working together for my good. And I hope you believe that for yourself as well. So you guys, I am so excited to be sharing this last episode with you. I hope you have enjoyed this year. I hope you listening to these last episodes this year, not only this season, but this year of 2023 has brought you as much joy as it has brought me recording these episodes for you each week. And today I have a special little treat for you. So Buzzsprout, which is my podcast host, if you don't know much about Buzzsprout and you are looking to ever start your own podcast, or you are a podcast host and maybe you are looking for a new host to hold your podcast, I encourage you to look at Buzzsprout. They are not sponsoring this podcast. Buzzsprout, if you want to, sponsor your girl, I'm fully open to that, but they are not sponsoring this podcast, but that's just how much I love Buzzsprout. If that's something you're looking into, go check them out. I absolutely love Buzzsprout, but Buzzsprout does this thing at the end of the year, your top 5 podcast episodes for the year. So these episodes that you guys are going to hear today, I have a special treat for you. I'm not even going to tell you what those top 5 are. I hope all of you guys who are going to be listening to this, I hope once you hear these episodes, you'll be like, oh yeah, that was my favorite episode. Oh yeah, that was my vote for this year. I hope you guys feel that way for each episode. You hear like, yeah, that was the one. Oh, I totally forgot about that one, but yes, I love that one. Oh yeah, that was it for me. I was excited, to be honest with you, and some of these were a complete surprise to me. Some of these that I saw that you guys love that had the most downloads this year, it was a complete surprise to me. So I hope you guys are excited. I hope some of these were your personal favorites. I hope some of these were the ones you really enjoyed, or maybe even like me, it may be a complete surprise to you that maybe that these were some of the most listened to. So wherever you fall on that, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. But what we're going to do, we're going to run back our top 5 episodes from 2023. So not only from this season, but the whole year of 2023, our top 5 episodes. So I really hope you guys enjoy. And if you're willing, I would really love this so much. It would bring my heart so much joy if you hear one of your top episodes from 2023. If you would screenshot and let me know and tag me on any social media platform that you're on. I'm Demo with Mo on Facebook, Demo with Mo Podcast on Instagram, and let me know which was your favorite podcast episode from today. And even if it wasn't one of the top 5 that was most listened to this year, let me know which episode this year really resonated with you. Tag me. Let me know. I would love to get some feedback for you as we prepare to get ready for 2024 and all of the new things that I'm preparing for the new year. I'm really excited to share with you guys new guests, podcast hosts from other podcasts I'm excited about. I'm just really excited about the new year. I'm expecting a lot of things from God in this new year. I'm ready to share so much with you guys. So again, tag me your favorite episode from today. And even if it didn't make the top 5, let me know what your favorite episode was from 2023. And remember to follow me, TikTok, Facebook at Demo with Mo, Instagram at Demo with Mo Podcast, and follow me on Facebook at our private group, Dating, Engaged, and Married Objectives. And without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you have an amazing, not just a happy, but an amazing new year. And I really hope you go into this new year expecting great things from God. Don't go in with your head hung down no matter what you face this year. And I'm not saying this as someone who did not face anything, that did not go through trials, that did not face tribulations, that did not go through storms, because man, this year has been rough for me. But man, I am expecting great things from a great God, because I am his child and I am his daughter. And I really hope you go into this year expecting the same, because you are his child and he is your God. So have an amazing new year. And let's get into this episode. All right, guys.
I want to give you guys the floor to give my audience one thing about yourselves that you would like them to know about you.
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
I feel like you took my one thing. Yeah, I am a person that likes to make and create things, and I've really been doing that more so lately than ever. So I've been enjoying it, and that's my one thing.
Thank you, Laura.
What's one thing I want people to know about me? At this point in my life, I want them to know straight up before anything else happens is that I'm going to be doing Jesus talk. I'm talking about Jesus these days. So if you, especially it's important for me to say as an artist, a creative, and how I show up in the community, it's like, I know people know, that I'm connected to a source, but I'm real big Jesus talk these days. Real big spiritual God with your life. They need to know that. This Amanda.
All right, this is Christy. And one thing about me, and I do mean this, I am a proud big sister of these two, because you said it, Monique. Laurie is a jack of all trades, and Amanda is an amazing poet, everything else. So I'm a proud big sister, since we're going from youngest to oldest of these two.
Oh, that's so freaking sweet.
Laura, you out of control.
What did I do?
Laura can't help herself, Amanda. She can't help herself. Okay, so today's episode is growing up in the church. And when I was thinking about doing this episode, I wanted to do this episode for multiple reasons. But the number one reason is usually going into a new year, people want to do New Year resolutions. Always. And what's usually one of the number one things that people have on their New Year's resolutions? They want to do what?
Get closer to God.
Get closer to God. Get back in church. That's usually one of the things. I said this would be a great episode to kick off the new year. And what better people to kick this episode off with? Women who grew up in the church. Women that I love who grew up in the church. So I reached out to these women who happen to be sisters. How cool, how freaking cool is that? 3 Christian Black women who I know, who are sisters, who grew up in the church, and they all agreed to come on. One reluctant, but I won't point any fingers or say any names. She just came, and she agreed.
I'm sure we know.
But no, seriously though, I knew these would be the perfect people to come on and join me. So ladies, again, I appreciate you guys so much, but we're going to jump right in. How old were you when you started going to church?
I was a baby. This is Laura. I believe I was in my mom's stomach.
You've been in church all your life?
My entire life.
Well, technically, no.
Oh,
okay.
I'm just going to be honest. When my mom was pregnant with my sister, my parents weren't necessarily in church. When Laura was born, we lived in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where my grandparents are at. And although my grandparents were very religious and things like that, I remember going to church with my grandmother, we did go to church, but my parents at that time weren't necessarily regulars. They weren't going to church like that.
This is news to me, because, okay.
But for me, Christy, I can say from being in my mom's stomach, because when I was born, we lived in Yazoo, and my mom was in the house with my grandmother, and that's big with my grandmother. So pretty much like the scriptures, like David said, from his mother's womb, he was given back. But I know for my sisters, yes, they were very, very young, because by the time Laura Laura, even before she was like 1 or whatever, we had moved back to Jackson. And when they were young, that's when my parents made that turn to get back. Now, they were always raised in the church, but like then they weren't trying to go to church like that.
Got you. Thank you, Christy. Amanda?
Well, yeah. Hey, Christy is my historian. When I want to know something about me, I ask Christy. I'm for real, especially about the younger, the stuff that only she can know.
Yeah.
Because she had awareness, and because she studies it, she is that person. So for a question like that, I would ask Christy, but for as long as I remember, like a conscious remembrance, I'm like Laura, like it seemed like we've been there every day.
Yeah.
Because they were very, very young when my parents turned back to going back to church. My siblings were, Amanda and Laura, only a year apart. So I'd say like from 1 for one and maybe 2 for the other. So for them, their memory, it would be from the womb, but yeah.
And I know, I know that story. I know we used to go to church with our grandma in Clarksdale, because she a church lady. So we did, but I do remember that we did come back to our parents, and I do have a remembrance of them going back to like I knew that language, that they wasn't there the whole time.
Yeah,
I do have an awareness of that. So straight up, yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what's up. And Christy, I can relate, being the oldest sibling. It's like you remember stuff that the younger siblings don't remember. All righty, ladies. What things do you love about being a part of our church family? Like specifically at New Life. What things do you love about it?
This is Laura. I enjoy the teaching. I enjoy the fellowship amongst my church family, the relationships and the closeness that we have at our church. That's what I enjoy.
I have always enjoyed the people, right? Like the people, I love people. I love the people at the church because they've been with me all my life. So I love the people. I'm just now enjoying going to the church and being.
Got you.
Because I felt forced to be there for so much of my life that, it's just a habit. It's just something that's a part of my routine. But I'm happy to now be able to say, like, I like going. And in that, it's really the people still. It's the people. But it's more for me being with my family there, like doing church on purpose with my family from a space of I want to do this and I like doing this, not because I got to do, this is what we got to do.
Oh, this is good. This is good. Okay, man, we're going to follow up on that a little later, but that's real good. Okay.
Okay, so Christy, the me now, because y'all know me, and Monique, you know me.
Yes,
this probably would have been a different answer a while back, but the me now really enjoys the fellowship, because the members at New Life aren't just members. They are family. That's our extended family. That's the way I look at it. That's family. So going to church on Sundays is going to see my family, to be able to worship God with my family. And that's what I enjoy, that New Life is family, and that there's accountability for the most part there. It's not like just going to a huge church where you're just one in a number and people don't know you. You know everyone there. They know you. We try to check on each other. So it's family. It's not just people.
Yeah.
It's not just my brothers and sisters in Christ. It's family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with all of you ladies with everything you guys have said. Okay, now the follow-up question to that, what has been some of the challenges? Because I don't want to do this episode and try to make it seem like everything in the church is always good, because that's not the case. I mean, if we're going to be honest, there are challenges. Whenever people are together, there are going to be challenges because we are human. We are flawed people. So for you guys personally, what has been some of your biggest challenges in the church?
Well, this is Christy. There's our delay, Laura. I'm going. Well, I think one thing that we haven't said, and I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but the thing about us is we are the pastor's kids. So our dad is the pastor of our church. Our mom is the first lady of our church. And so as far as challenges, in the past, a challenge has been, and I don't know if I know Amanda could agree, I don't know about Laura, is you have to share your parent ministry sometimes, and those people would come before maybe what we needed as children, as our actual immediate family. And then just because we are the pastor's kid, just expecting to be involved in everything or having to do, you know what I'm saying? Just
yes.
There's an expectation. And I used to say, the old me used to say all the time, I wasn't called to preach. I'd be glad to tell you I wasn't called to preach. Don't look for me. That's my daddy, that's them. But that's been a challenge. Like that expectation. And sometimes when you don't feel like it, there's a guilt, there's a weight. Well, if I don't, I'm how does that make us look, or the family, or whatever? We're supposed to be this, that. It's that identity thing. But I think the unique thing about all of us, and we have a brother too, we are all unique. I don't think any of us dance to the beat of anybody else's drum. We are all unique in our own way, and have our own identity. But yeah, that's been a challenge.
Yeah.
I want to chime in because she said we have a brother. We do have a brother. His name is Matthew. Shout out to Matthew.
Oh yeah.
So
if you're listening, hey Matt.
Christy loves him most. We love him most too. She closer to everybody in her own way. It's the big sister vibe. This is Amanda. The challenges of growing up in the church. That's the question.
Yes, ma'am.
The biggest challenge for me that just comes straight up is in the past. Like I mentioned earlier, the people have always been my favorite thing about the church, but at the same time, people feel like they know you because they know you from church.
Yeah.
And growing up, coming into your own identity. And like Christy said, we not the pastors. We not that we assigned to this right now. But some of the things that people can impose on you as ministers' children or, pastors of the children, they're going to assign you identities. And sometimes those assignments are rooted in things other than love and appreciation and respect for your humanity. And so the misconceptions about what preachers' kids are like, oh, they deviant, oh, they mischievous, oh, they fast, oh, they this, oh, they that. So, just those assignments had always been challenging. And then also, when I was younger, you don't really understand the way people feel like they can offer you what I like to call unsolicited advice on things based off of what they may have heard your parents say. My parents are used to using us as examples And that's life. Your mom is, if your dad preaching and he trying to make a point, he gonna use what's available to him. And having, all these children, we are just automatic point makers. And so over the pulpit, giving away some of our private or personal experiences, and then folks feeling like now they have privilege or license to comment on what they heard your parents say. Always been a challenge. That had always been a challenge for me in the past. Is most people are looking for ways to escape their own realities. And so you one of the people that find a great escape in church, then a preacher's kid is an excellent target.
Yeah.
So that had always been one of the challenges for me, is the closeness and the uninvited closeness of people's opinion.
Yeah.
This is Laura. I agree with what my sisters have said, and just would like to add that a challenge for me is feeling like I had to censor myself. I can't fully say what I'm thinking, or couldn't fully say what I'm thinking or feeling. Even, with the rise of social media, just put it on social media. Can't post a Facebook status without a church person thinking, oh, she must be talking about such and such, or that must happen so-and-so. So people having those extra eyes on you, it's both ways as a church member, but especially as a pastor's daughter, having those types of eyes on you and having to just censorship, I think, not being able to fully express yourself. But I agree with what both of them said.
And this is Christy. And the old me was the total opposite. I didn't censor myself when I probably should have, or I feel like I should have been more sensitive and more aware, kind of like what Laura was saying, but I didn't.
Got you. That's a heavy burden to carry. And I love y'all. Like, I legit love y'all. I've never, and maybe this is because I didn't necessarily grow up in the church, I've never looked at y'all as, even though I know y'all are our pastor's kids, I've never looked at y'all like that. I've legit just looked at y'all as who y'all are. Amanda, Christy, and Laura. And I love y'all for just who y'all are. So I could not even imagine walking in y'all's shoes, growing up in the church, having to censor yourself or watch what you say or take on unsolicited advice or opinions or even sharing your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
I got up one Sunday at the pastor's anniversary. I don't mean no harm, Monique, but I feel like you and Danielle, you and another church member must have gotten up and said something about my parents, or calling our parents like your mom and dad or whatever. And I must have said something at that pastor's anniversary. I'm like, these are my parents.
And I apologize if I made you feel some type of way.
No,
legit.
Okay.
I came into new life in a place where I needed that relationship that I started to have with your mom. Like, me and my mom were in a rocky place. Like, literally, we hadn't talked for a long time. And I needed that. And your mom was there for me. So it wasn't like from a place of, I'm taking them away from their kids, or I'm mindful of how I'm making their children feel. And now I'm hearing you guys, and I totally hate that. You know what I'm saying? But it was never.
I will say, this is Christy. I will say this, Monique. Don't. I think for me, and maybe Laura can speak to this too, we are in way different places too now in life, and even in our relationship, in our walk with God. Whereas in those times we were in a different place and might not have understood it, but the more that you grow in God, the more that you learn spiritually and reflect, then you come to see it from a different perspective, and you know that it's not people trying to take your parents or anything like that. I think now I understand better. There's a calling on my dad's life. He before he even is responsible to us, he has to answer to God first. And if God led him to lead the people, that's what he has to do. There's an order to everything, and we have to understand. We had to understand that, but for me, it took growth.
Yeah. And I'm not taking what you guys are saying personally, but I'm putting myself in your shoes, and it still sucks. Like, even though your dad has a calling and even though he is the pastor, home is still our first ministry. Our spouses and our children, that's our first ministry. And it still sucks. And that's a heavy burden to have to carry, to have to share your family with other people. So again, my heart goes out to y'all, and I love y'all.
Hey girl, hey. Okay, Jay, and for my guests, you will hear me throughout the episode call Jay Bria Jay. She goes by Jay for short, so that's what I know her as. So if you hear me say Jay, that's what I'm referring to her as. Jay, what is one fun fact about yourself that my guests could get to know you a little better?
So most of the time, wherever I work, whether it's in a clinic or wherever, most people know me as the twerking girl.
Oh, okay, twerking Jay.
Because everywhere I go, I can hear music in my head, and I'm just gonna be like, you know what? Yes,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I was working at the high school, and this girl came in, and it was her birthday, and I was just like, one time for the birthday chick.
Hey.
The principal was like, Miss Tiana, what is that? I was like, oh, we turn up for her birthday. Like, that's what we do. We got to get everybody in a good mood.
Girl,
it's like, I've never had a manager who would be out doing things like that. I was like, you got to be fun sometimes.
I absolutely love it. Okay, Jay, so we're going to dive right into these questions. I mean, I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so how long have you been in the dating world?
Oh, I've been in the dating world now for about 3 years.
3 years. Okay, so let me ask you this. You have a 9-year-old and you've been in the dating world for 3 years. So if you could give me like a backdrop or a little context or a little history, how did you transition or how did you get here to the dating world, from having a 9-year-old to now just getting back into the dating world?
Well, her father and I, we were married.
Okay.
We had been together for about 17 years. So we got a divorce about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I've just been in the dating world since then.
Got you. Okay. I got you now. I got you. How was that transition for you going from being in a marriage and in a committed relationship for that long, for now going back into the dating world, but even with that, going now into the dating world with a child?
Yes, girl, it's so different. Like before, I guess that'll be like almost 20 years ago, I was used to, I guess, the traditional dating.
Yeah.
They see you, boy sees girl, girl sees guy. He may say something, she give him a little look, and it's whatever.
Yeah.
Girl, now it's just so different. It's like, one, they're bold and they have lots of audacity. And I'm just like, so y'all don't ask people to go on dates and stuff no more? Like, that's not what they do. So it's a very big difference.
Got you. Okay, let me ask you this. Because now having a child, I know, like you said, it's a big difference now being out in the dating world. When is a good time to introduce the person that you're dating to your child? Or is there even a time frame?
I really don't think there's an actual time frame. But for me, because obviously I'm still dating, so I don't really have anyone. I just want to make sure that when I'm dating someone, I actually see us going somewhere.
Gotcha.
So then I can introduce her to them, not just a random, I just got your phone number. Let me introduce you to my child this weekend. Because she's young, they get attached. I don't need her getting attached to something that's very, very temporary.
Okay. So I got you. So it's not so much as a time frame, but it's about, is this somebody I see this is going somewhere with?
Yes, it's more of a, are we on the same page? Are we going somewhere? And even so much as if we're not going in that same direction, because if we're on the same page, and kids need to know that you can be platonic friends. You can have platonic friends of the opposite sex. So if I meet this guy and okay, he has potential, but we're going to take it slow and just be really good friends, you can tell where your friendship is going, whether you're going to introduce your child to them as a friend and then it grows into something. But they have to be a regular, consistent friend where they actually come by the house. We're actually doing fun stuff together. Then it's something different where we can actually either grow from it or just be really good friends. Either he's going to be stepdaddy or he's going to be uncle, whichever one. But it's okay for them to see that, but not just somebody random. Like, I met him in a club. He asked me for my number, and I'm going to introduce him to my baby tomorrow. No. So,
That's good. I like that, especially the platonic friends, because some people, you actually may start out as going on a date with them, and you guys may actually just turn out to be good friends. Like, we may not be romantic partners, but we actually like each other as friends. Like, we legit may turn out to be really good friends.
Yes.
Is it a turnoff to be introduced to someone's child too early, like on either side? Like, do you think that's a turnoff?
If we haven't discussed where we're going, then I will feel kind of weird.
Yeah.
If we're supposed to be going to the movies and he's like, hey, let me show you my child first. I'm like, oh, okay. How do you even know we'll still be here next week? Like, we may not even like each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is something that we're going to have to talk about. Like,
okay,
are we going to introduce kids like at a play date? Like, how we have to talk about this. Don't just bring it up on me. And I'm just like, oh, hey, yeah.
Okay, so no kid pop-ups. That should be a conversation that you guys both have and agree on. Yes. Okay, I agree with that. I'm not in the dating world, but I agree with that.
Conversations need to happen, because are you introducing me as just a friend, or am I going to be a potential? Like, how am I going into this introducing thing? Like, right. It could be it can turn into something.
Okay, so when you are ready to introduce them, I think this is a great segue to what you're saying. When you're ready to introduce them to your child, who should you introduce them as?
Oh, that's a good question. So, depending on where we are in our relationship, it'll probably start off as, hey, this is mommy's friend. She's so smart, so she'll see if it's somebody I'm going on a date with all the time, or we're always doing something together. She'll eventually ask me, Mommy, is this your boyfriend? And I'm like, we're just friends that are enjoying each other's company at the moment. Mommy does not know, because in her eyes, she's 9, but she's like, I'm ready for you to have a boyfriend.
She says that?
Yes.
OMG.
Girl, she's just like, I'm going to be going off to college soon, and I don't want you to be at home being lonely. Baby, you are 9.
At 9 years old. She already planning mommy's life. Like, I need you to have somebody.
Yes, like, I need you to have a boyfriend. I don't want you to be lonely. Baby, first of all, let's get this straight.
She love her mama, though. She love her mama.
Right.
Okay. This is something I personally want to know, too. Is it expected, because you have a child or multiple children, that you want to date someone that has children? If so, why do you think that is?
Well, in just my situation, I would prefer to date someone who already has kids.
Okay. They
will understand the little issues that I have going on with mine sometimes. And plus, like, I'm 39, like, I just don't, if I ain't meet nobody in the next year, so I'm probably not going to have any more kids. I need you to already have some kids. Yes, I need you to already have some kids. I don't mind the whole stepmama thing where I don't even use stepmom, bonus mom, bonus dad. Like, I don't mind doing that. But please, I need you to have your own kids. And not only just have your own kids, I need you to actually be involved in your kids' life.
Yeah.
Like, I have to actually see you being involved in their life. Like have them, do stuff with them, talk to them. Because if not, then that is a big turnoff.
Thank y'all for joining me on tonight on Let's Talk Couple Friends. I have joining me LaKenya and Delvin Van Norman, Avery Leggett, and Bruce Jenkins. So I do this thing called Let's Talk. And it started back in September last year when we were celebrating Sexual Awareness Month in September. And to close out the month, I did this Let's Talk About Sex because, as you guys know, my podcast is from the perspective of a young Christian woman. And in the Christian community, especially among married Christians, I don't know why, but it's such a stigma around talking about sex, which is crazy to me because God created sex for marriage, and you would think we would be the people that are talking about sex the most, but we're not. So I wanted to close out the month with having a conversation about sex where people could really just come together and have this place where we could talk about sex and it not be some uncomfortable conversation. Well, it was such a great turnout that people wanted to go into having more of the Let's Talk conversation. So this how this Let's Talk spanned off into something even bigger. So we started having these bi-weekly conversations where we would have these conversations via Facebook when I went live every other week, where we would have these different conversations on things that couples faced or dealt with or went through in their relationships. Because as you guys know, we all face things in our relationships. We're human, we're flawed. It's going to be things that come up. So we talked about finances and we talked about having date nights and we talked about just various things. So tonight we're going to talk about couple friends and is it important to have other relationships with other couples and how do you make couple friends and the various things dealing with couple friends. So when I reached out to the group, we have a private Facebook group, and I reached out to them and asked them what if they want our Let's Talk conversation to be about this month. They voted and they wanted to talk about couple friends. So when they mentioned this to me, I'm like, who better would it be for me to talk to about this conversation than my friends who are actually my couple friends because they're in relationships and we're all friends. So I reached out to them, they agreed, and here we are. I just took this long way of saying this, but that's why I have Danny and Delvin here and Avery and Bruce here joining me on tonight. So I'm not going to hold us up any longer. Guys, welcome to Let's Talk. I appreciate you guys agreeing to this and having this conversation with me tonight. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Monique. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, so this first question, do you think it's hard for most couples to find other couple friends? Danny and Delvin.
I would say it depends on you individually of how you approach finding friendships. If you have a hard time just finding individual friendships, I could see it being an issue or maybe not being a strong suit of yours. But if you can personally cultivate relationships and friendships, don't think it'd be a hard thing to do. Of just getting to know people and kind of seeing if you guys are a good fit or just maybe a high level relationship, not very intimate. Just depends on the person.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess only thing I would add to that is also depends on the area that you're in. If you're in a area where you already have friends and stuff, and then as you and your friends grow, naturally they'll become couples that way. But if you're moving to a new area, I can see that being difficult. But it's all about getting involved. I think it's if you go to like different areas where that you common interests with other people. For instance, church. That's a way to find friends. But then it's also difficult, like you said, if you already person that's having a hard time making new friendships and stuff, that can be a little difficult. But I would say just go with what interests you, and then you can meet people that way too.
Oh, this is good. Okay, let me ask this. And the only reason I'm asking is because, like I said, I invited you guys on because I'm personally friends with y'all. So I have a little bias here. I know you guys. So then with you, we have invested over 10 years in friendship. Like we were very close. And then you got married and you moved away, which was hard on us and our friend group because we've invested a lot. Like we were not just on the surface friends as far as our friend group. We did a lot. We were intertwined in each other's lives. So how was that adjustment for you to have such close friendships here and to now having to adjust with now meeting your husband's friends or meeting, having to meet new people and build new couple friends?
Well, honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, personally, I was distraught about leaving you guys. Cause again, it was more than just, hey girl, how you doing? We was there. We was like, this.
Yeah.
But moving here, Delvin already had relationships. So do you know how I was a single friend in our group because everybody else was married? He was a single friend in his group and everyone else was married. So when I came here, the wives literally just welcomed me into the fold, where I'm, it's not, of course, not as long as my relationships with you guys, but I've pretty much been cultivated and ingrained into their friend family circle here. So, I mean, they are amazing group of women, mothers. Same way I can call them. They're here. I know I can call you guys, but they're here if I need something, there. But it was a really easy transition because he had already set the groundwork to have those relationships with good people.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that so much. I love that.
They did.
They all replaced me.
The women, they replaced him with me. They did.
Avery, what do you think? What do you think about? Is it hard for couples to find other couple friends?
I think that you have to, I don't think it's hard to find them. I think it's hard to maintain the relationship because you do have to find people that share like common interests first. And that's already hard as an adult, especially when everybody's life is moving in different directions. You start having children and other responsibilities. And then you have to find somebody who first shares common interests, and then y'all can find time to get together, to hang out. And when you hang out with that person, you'll find out like if you vibe with them or not. Because sometimes you'll think, oh, this person will make a good friend for me. But until you actually go out with them, you don't really know. Because sometimes you'll find out like, nah, I don't think I want to do that again, So really you just have to, put yourself out there and be willing to try new people. I know that's like the thing with me right now since I moved to a new place. I don't know a lot of people here. And I have this one set of couple friends that I hang out with, and they're okay, but they are younger than me. So a lot of times I have to remember that the time that they're in, as far as their relationship and their age and their experiences are not the same as mine, And then I have to give them grace because I'm like, okay, well, I ain't gonna say they don't know no better, but they just haven't had enough experience to understand, why they shouldn't be upset about what they're going through or why it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about
this. Okay. Bruce, what about you?
I think it will really just depend on the couples themselves and individuals, the type of people that they are as far as knowing themselves and the type of people they will want to be around. because everybody's different. You know, me personally, I have like a very, very high preference on the type of people that I surround myself with. So, in other words, my circle is pretty small, but I'm open to learning more about individuals and getting to know them on, you know, on a certain level, and then making a judgment call of if that's, you know, somebody I want to be around all the time.
Okay.
Because I look at it like everybody that comes into your circle or comes in your vicinity, they may be friendly, but they're not true friends.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, make a lot of sense.
So I kind of just fall back just a little bit and people, you know, kind of keep my eye on people before I actually make a decision on if that's someone I can truly look to be a friend.
Okay. So you guys, the follow-up question to this was, if so, why do you think that is? But you guys have already answered that with your answer. You've already told me why that could be hard. So that next question is, do you feel it's important to a relationship or marriage to have relationships with other couples? Danny and Delvin, what do you guys think? Is this important?
Yeah, it's important. And I just follow up on something that Avery said earlier. I was trying to keep from jumping in. I think it is important to have a relationship with other couples, because a lot of times in marriages or in relationships, you go through things and it makes seem that you're the only one who's going through that.
Oh, yes.
So it's good to have a good relationship with good couples where you can talk through situations. But even deeper than that, what our situation here in Florida is, we have good relationship with couples in different stages of their relationship. So we're like the newlyweds of the group. But then we are friends with people who've been married like 10 years. And then we have friends with people who've married like 25, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And so for us coming in, like, oh, we have an issue with this. And then the 10-year group was like, oh, that's nothing. And then the 25-year group, if we have an issue with that, like, oh, y'all talking about nothing. We've been through that, done that a couple times. Wait till this happens. So it's good to have people in different stages as well to talk to things.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I promise, it can, in the moment, if you don't have some, and it can't just be anybody. You, as Bruce said, you got to be mindful of your friends, like the people that you call friends. Because some people, they're just associates, people you can go out and have a good time with, some people you can do lunch with. But the people you doing marriage and relationships with and invest in your life with, these got to be some good people you surround yourself with, because you're opening yourself and being vulnerable about your relationship and your life. And you got to be careful of who you allow in that part of you. Exactly. You can't do that with everybody. So sometimes you can literally be going through things in your relationship and your marriage, and you can think this is the end. Like it to other people, it can be so simple. Like this is nothing. But in that moment, to you and your partner, this can literally feel like this is the end. We won't survive this. This is over. Like, let's just go ahead and get the divorce papers ready. But if you got some good people around you who have come through some things, who walked through some things, who can be there to support you and encourage you and pray for you, they can be like you said, those people that's been there 10 years or 25 years, they can be like, man, that is nothing. We've been through that. We've come through that. You guys are going to be okay. You're going to make it through that. When you got that around you, that's encouraging. That helps you to know, okay, my marriage is not over. You know, this is not the end. Okay, somebody else went through this and made it out on the other side. But imagine the couples who don't have that, who don't have those couple friends, who are literally going through the stuff that we go through alone. Like, I could not imagine some of the things my husband and I have walked through and having to walk through them alone. We wouldn't have made it. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like we would have, because we wouldn't have made it. So I appreciate my circle of couple friends. I really do appreciate y'all.
Okay, so Danny, what you think? Is it important?
Yes, pretty much everything Delvin said, but to kind of add on to what something you said is even the Bible talks about this, not just advice, but it talks about wise counsel. So the relationships of those couples need to be people who believe in what you believe in marriage. Because if you've got somebody that they don't believe marriage is sacred and you can do anything and everything, that may not be the person you want to listen to. But the relationships you have, you want it to be people that understand marriage the way that you understand it, that your vows, how you took your vows, what that means. And don't get it wrong, I know everyone has their own things that you do in your house, but to me, everybody that I associate with has the same principles and perspective of what the foundation of marriage is. So having those relationships, again, can basically save you a lot of heartache. And also those relationships, even in our group, sometimes they hold your foot to the fire. They're not always, that's like, oh, Devin did something. No, my girls on both sides, Mississippi and Florida girls, both be like, oh, Danny, no, you can't be, you said that. No, honey. You have to do better than you're doing. But yes, I think it's very important to get those perspectives. And even the Bible says that, that the older women teach the younger women, how to be wives. So having those different areas, those different, like he said, the 10 to 15 years, the 30 years. I mean, and I saw that before I got married from New Life. I had great examples to follow there, and even some in my family. And then when I got here to have that same example, I do believe it's extremely important.
And another thing I like to add to it too is it's helpful to have those relationships in different stages for things outside of the relationship. Because you think about, like say we younger, we still have our parents and stuff right now. Yeah. At some point, you already know that your parents going to get older, and that's going to be a strain too. At some point when you have to take care of them or lose a parent. So have couples who've been through that before. So other things outside the marriage too.
Oh yeah, I agree. And for 2023, the word is surrender. Surrender is when you let go. You stop trying to do things your way and you submit to someone's authority. In my case, that someone would be Jesus. I don't want to pick and choose what in my life I surrender to Christ. But this year, I want to be intentional that I'm surrendering everything to him. There go that word intentional again. I told y'all, just because the year ends doesn't mean that has to stop. That doesn't mean that that's over. You're just shifting your focus. But this year in 2023, I'm still going to be intentional. That's just not my focus this year. Surrendering is my focus this year. But even in my surrendering, I'm going to be intentional that I'm surrendering everything to him. Well, what does that have to do with the importance of praying for your marriage? You might be asking. Because I started off with telling you guys that we're going to be ending season 4, the finale today, with discussing the importance of praying for your marriage. And I done talked about all this stuff. I done talked about being intentional. I have talked about my words for the years. I've talked about investing in my relationship with Christ. I talked about last year being one of the hardest years of my life and one of the most beautiful years of my life. But what does any of this stuff have to do with the importance of praying for your marriage? The Bible teaches us that our marriages should be a representation of Christ's relationship to the church. And if I'm honest, my marriage is one of the hardest areas for me to fully surrender to Christ. That's just me being honest with you guys. It's one of the hardest areas for me to surrender. To fully surrender. Because there's some areas in my marriage that I will surrender with no issue. And there's some areas in my life that I will fight to surrender. And there's some areas in my life I will ignore, and I just don't want to give up. I'm not letting go. I'm stubborn. I want to do it my way. I know what I should do. I know, and the crazy thing is, I know God's way is what's right. I know his way is what will work out best for me. I know this, but that stubbornness that will get in my heart on certain issues keeps me from fully surrendering to certain areas in my marriage and giving it over to him. God created marriage. He tells us how to love, honor, and respect our spouses. He tells us exactly how marriage should look. The things that he calls us to do in marriage don't come natural to us. They go against everything our flesh wants to do. So if we're going to do marriage God's way and get God's results, it only makes sense that we would go to him to help us to do that. This is why praying for your marriage is so important. If you buy something, you know how you buy your kids those gifts for Christmas and they ship them to you in those boxes full of pieces, none of it's put together. You be hoping it be put together, but you know it's probably not put together. And for some reason, we think we can put those gifts together without reading the directions. And once we get done, we have like 50 screws left, or we put a part on backwards, or it falls apart, or it's not sturdy, and we have to start over from scratch and read the directions. It's a reason why they have the directions in the box, because the person, the manufacturer, the person who created it, they know how they created it. They know exactly how it's supposed to be put together and how it should work. It's the same way with our marriages. God created marriage. He knows exactly how marriage should be, what it should look like, how we should treat one another. But for some odd reason, we like to do it on our own. We want to do it our way. We want to listen to everybody else but God. We will try a million different things before going to God. And just like those gifts that we try to put together that we get our kids for Christmas, it's not sturdy. It ends up falling apart. We got to start over from scratch. And you know what we end up having to do, which is what we should have did in the first place? We have to go back to the manufacturer's directions and do it the way they instructed us to do. And that's the same way it is for our marriage. After we mess it up, because that's what we do when we want to do things our own way, we mess it up. We have to end up going back to the manufacturer, the creator of marriage, and do it the way he intended for it to be done. This is why prayer in marriage is so important. I'm talking about it is a necessity. If you are listening to this when this comes out, my husband and I, we lead the couples ministry at our church. And as you're listening to this, again, if you're listening to this live, we just finished 21 days of prayer for our marriages. And I had prayed about it and talked to God about it, about my word for this year. I do want y'all to know that I don't just randomly choose a word and just throw out a word that sounds good. I go into prayer about, Lord, what do I need to focus on in my life this year? What area of my life do I need to be better in? Because I want to be better. That is my desire, to continue to strive to be better. So once I got the word, I'm like, what are some things that I need to surrender? Like, what areas of my life could I do better in this area of surrendering? Because I don't know about y'all, but some areas are harder to let go than others. There are some things in my life, I'm talking about, I trust God fully. Finances and money, no issue. No issue. And I know for some people, this is a hard one. Like, this is one of those hardest ones to let go. Money and finances is not an issue for me. I will freely let God be in control in that area of my life. I've seen God do some amazing things in my life. I'm talking about, I've seen him do some mind-blowing, amazing things. I'm talking about making ways out of no ways, providing what you know you didn't have, you knew it was a need, but you know you didn't have it. You didn't have it. Nobody could give it to you. Yeah, I've seen God do mind-blowing things in my life when it comes to being a provider. No issue. So there are some things in my life, God said it, that's enough, period. But there are other areas in my life where I struggle letting go. And it's not because of God, it's because of me. I want to be in control. I don't want to let go of my ways. I don't want to let go of my way of thinking, the way I want to do it. I don't want to relinquish. I want to be in control. And I know some of you listening may be the exact same way. You may not be as honest as me. You may not want to say that. You may not want nobody to know that. You may want people to think you just trust God with every area in your life. He's in control. You fully surrender. No. I have not gotten where I am in my relationship with Christ except by being completely transparent and vulnerable and honest about where I am. I'm not going to ever come on here and lie to you or pretend that I'm something that I'm not. I'm just not going to do that because I want, when I share with you, when I live my life, when people see me, when people hear me, when people know me, when I'm witnessing to others, I want people, when I say I want God to get the glory, I mean it. So I'm going to be honest because I want you to see everything that God does in my life is Him. I want you to see who I am and who He is. So I'm never going to try to pretend that I got it all together and I have it all figured out and I do what's right all the time and I don't mess up and I trust God fully with everything. No, I would never do that. I want you to know this thing is real. And I really hope you get to that place as well where you don't ever feel like you need to pretend or put on, but that you can be completely honest about where you are in your walk. Because once you get there, God can begin to do a true work in your heart. I'm talking about a true work because now you're honest about where you are. He can meet you right there and begin to get you where you need to be. I hope that makes sense. So again, I began to write out the list of the things that I need to work on being able to surrender on in my life, areas of my life that I can do better on surrendering to God. And marriage was one of them. So I reached out to the couples in our couples ministry and told them, what I wanted to do and what I was going to do in my personal marriage and how I was going to be doing this 21 days of prayer in my marriage. And I would love for you guys to join me. And everybody jumped on board. Everybody was in. So myself and our couples ministry, we just have finished the 21 days of prayer for our marriage. So what it consisted of, and I encourage you guys, if you're a part of a couples ministry, or even if you have a friends group, you got a group chat going with your girlfriends or your guy friends, y'all be talking about everything else and doing everything else in a group chat. Maybe this is something that you can jump on board with. I'm just saying. But what it consisted of every day, a specific time, because we would all pray at the same time, unless you had something going on, but we would all pray at the same time. But every day I would send out a scripture of exactly what we were going to be dealing with for that day, or what area we were going to kind of be praying around, and what we were going to be asking God to help us with in our marriages concerning that specific scripture. And I would send that out each day. And we would everyone in the ministry would be praying and interceding together for their marriages. And this is intentional because, as I told you guys earlier, the things that God expects from us in our marriages, how He wants us to love one another and honor one another and respect one another and submit, and the things that God asks of us, these things do not come natural to our flesh. They come natural to the Holy Spirit, which, if we are Christians, now lives within us, now dwells within us. But that flesh and the Holy Spirit, they are at war. They are fighting every day. You know how you want to do what's right, but some in you just want to go against that, doing what's right. That's that war. That's that fight that's happening every single day because your flesh doesn't want to do that. Your flesh wants to sin. Your flesh wants to do the complete opposite of what God wants you to do. But the Holy Spirit wants to do exactly what God wants you to do. So if we're going to do what God wants us to do, what he expects for us to do, the way that he wants marriage to look, the way that he wants marriage to represent him, and my flesh wants to do the complete opposite, who do I need to go to help me do it that way? I need to go to God. I need to depend on God.
I wanted Amy to come on and be my special guest host for me because even though I've never met Amy in person, she has such a beautiful spirit, such a big personality. She is one of our group members on our relationship community in our Facebook group that I always tell you guys about. And she's been there since the beginning. And she's always contributed to the group. We always have conversations privately. And she's just been a big part of this podcast journey. And I just appreciate her so much. So I thought she would be the perfect person to come on and do this special interview for me as we close out season 5 of the podcast. So Amy, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back. I told you I would be.
You did. And I do want to let my listeners know there was no hesitation. I reached out to Amy and she agreed and she is here. So thank you so much. I don't take that lightly at all.
Yes, girl. I'm always here to support you.
I appreciate it.
So I have some questions for you today.
Okay. And let me say this. I am a little nervous, which is very rare that I get nervous, but I am a little nervous because I did have the questions beforehand, and I do want to let the audience know these are not questions that I came up with at all. These are not my questions, but these are questions from the Facebook relationship community as well as friends of the podcast. But what I did was I wanted to be fair. I don't like my guests to know questions that I'm going to ask them before they come on the podcast. I love to get real authentic responses from my questions. Mm-hmm. So me being not in the hostess seat today, I wanted to have real authentic responses as well. So even though I knew the questions, I didn't go over the questions. I didn't put together answers. So these are all going to be new to me as you ask them to me. So I'm a little nervous.
Well, you are in the hot seat today.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think this is going to be smooth, though. I think it's going to be a lot more smooth than you think it's going to be. So okay. Let's just start simple. Okay. What made you start the podcast?
Okay. One of the reasons I started the podcast, which I've talked a lot about, my husband and I got married when we were 21. So we got married very young. A lot of the things that I wish I would have known back then, because we went through a lot. And if you've been listening to the podcast, if you've been rocking with me, you know a lot of our background. It ain't always been cute. It ain't always been pretty. We have not always been where we currently are. There have been a lot of bumps in the road. So I wanted people who are starting off in their relationships, starting off in their marriages, to have resources and tools and to hear from people who may be in a place that they wish to be at one day, to know you can get here. Like, just because you're going through things right now, just because it may be hard right now, you're not alone. You're not the only one. It doesn't have to always be this way. I just wanted to give other people hope. And don't get me wrong, I'm not out here thinking that I'm the marriage and relationship guru, that I got it all together. Heavens no, not at all. But I wanted to be a source of hope for people, to encourage them, to let them know that they're not by themselves. And also because I am an avid podcast listener. I've been listening to podcasts for years. So I'm like, if I listen to podcasts and I see the statistics of people who listen to podcasts, if I can put out some content that will actually help people and encourage them, and it'll be some good, not just the hot topic that we're talking about today, some juicy gossip. Don't get me wrong, that stuff has its place as well. But if this is going to be something that can actually help you in your life and help you in your relationship, I want to be able to put that out there. So that was one of the main reasons.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did it take you to make up your mind to do a podcast? Like, was it something you just jumped into, or did you think about it, pray on it for a while, or were you pretty much set?
Girl, heavens no. Heavens no. So my husband and I are over the couples ministry at our church. We've been over the couples ministry, at least 10 years at our church. So this is not something that I just jumped into. And I'm a very private person. Listening to my podcast, you wouldn't know that about me. You would think I probably just share everything, but knowing me personally, I am very private. I'm very strategic and very mindful of the things that I share about my personal life, like things that I share. My husband has already okayed or in agreement with me about what I share. I talk to God about the things that I'm going to share. I'm very private. So I was not very apt to starting a podcast because I know the type of person that I am. I'm very authentic. I like to be real. I cannot fake. I cannot pretend. I cannot act like I'm something that I'm not. I cannot talk about one thing and then live another way. I don't roll like that. So I knew if I did this podcast, I was going to have to put everything into this podcast. I was going to have to be vulnerable and transparent and real about my marriage and my life and my family. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do that, if I'm being completely honest. But God kept putting it on me like, this is your testimony. This is your life. And it wasn't so much about me. It was about God and him being glorified because it represented, because again, my husband and I got married so young and we went through so much in our marriage and our relationship where other people on the outside probably thought we weren't going to make it. And to be honest, I myself thought we wouldn't make it a lot of times. But to get where we are now, it was just a testament of who God is, like what he can do if you trust him, if you believe him, if you live your life according to his word and really really live what you say you believe. Like it's a testament of who he is and what he can do in your life and in your relationship and in your marriage. So for people in my life who actually seen what God did in my husband and I's marriage and in our relationship and in our family and in our finances, he did so much. And for me to try to not be willing to share that with the world, to hold on it for myself when we're as Christians, people who are listening to this, if you're a Christian, if you're a believer, we're supposed to be witnesses to the world. But for me to try to hold that for myself and not be willing to share that so people can know that God is real, I couldn't do that. Like I could not do that. So to answer your question, no, I did not originally want to do that, but I had to get past myself and really trust God fully. Like, you called me, you've equipped me with everything that I will need to do this. It don't matter what people are going to think about me, how they may judge me in my relationship, what they may have to say about me, how some people in my life, because a lot of the things that I share may involve other people, in my family. People may not like me sharing certain things. They may be offended by certain things, but I had to get outside of what other people thought. It had to be more concerned about me pleasing God and bringing glory to him.
And that is an aspect of it that I never even thought about from your perspective. The idea that some of the things that you share, because you're telling your truth, your story, they may involve other people who may not be as comfortable and, they may not have, healed as much as you have enough to share this kind of stuff or want this stuff out about them. So that's, another layer that your audience can consider, because I hadn't thought about that before as much as I've been following.
Yeah, because for example, the episode I did about domestic abuse, domestic violence for Domestic Awareness Month, I shared things about my ex when I was in a domestic abuse relationship. Even though I've forgiven that person and I hope that they've forgiven themselves and they've moved on, I have to be mindful of those things. I was very strategic in not sharing any names, not giving certain details so people could try to put pieces together and try to figure out who it is. But I have to think about all of that because I never want my platform to be hurtful to anyone. Because again, like you said, I'm sharing my truth. But even with me sharing my truth involves other people, and I don't want to hurt anyone.
And that's amazing that God has done that for you, you know, to have a platform and not use it, you know, for get back, but to glorify God and what you really came into this for. That's a beautiful testament in itself.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So while we're talking about the podcast, and we're going to move off this subject in a little bit, but I just think it's always beautiful to get the backstory, right? Like we spend so much time featuring other people on our platforms. Now that we are highlighting you as the starter of this platform that so many people love, I just really want to give you a chance to tell your audience, you know, your story and how this all came to be so that we can continue to support. What are some of your other ambitions or future goals that maybe you have for the podcast, or where are you looking to see this go in 10 years? Where are you hoping this podcast has taken you and your following?
Okay. So one of the big things that I care about is impacting relationships. I care so much about people in their relationships and their marriages. Like I have a heart for that. Like my heart burns. Like I can't even explain it. So I would love to do marriage retreats. Like that's something that I really want to do. I want to be able to do marriage retreats where couples from all over the United States could come together just to get together, like where we discuss things that we all deal with in marriages, but not only talk about those things, but have a good time as well. Because you know, you in the group, you know, I love date nights and vacations. I love that kind of stuff. So I want to be able to put it together where we talk about the things that we deal with in relationships, but I also want to be able to have a good time and date our spouse and have fun with one another and connect with other couples. So it doesn't just stay at that retreat, but we actually can build on it where we continue to grow our community and connect with other couples. That would be a huge thing for me. Like that's something that I really, really want to do because I care more about quality over quantity. Like I don't care per se. Don't get me wrong. I would love if the group would continue to grow with the numbers, but that's not my main concern. I really care about the involvement, the connections, people really getting to know one another and building those relationships. Like that's what I care about so much. That's why I push the engagement, because that's really what my heart desires. I don't care so much about the numbers. So that would be my main goal. Another goal I would have is one day having sponsors for the podcast, because right now I pay for everything. I do everything myself. As far as the editing, the putting out the podcast, I do all of that myself. So one day I would hope to have sponsors for the podcast. I'm not looking for anything big because again, this is my passion. This is something that I care so much about. So I honestly don't care about spending the money. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure my husband would love for me to have a sponsor so we didn't have to spend the money. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is something from my heart. This is not something that I'm doing because it's not about the money for me. But I would hope one day that would be my goal, to one day have sponsors so we would not have to pay out of pocket. But yeah, just to continue to do it because I love it. I mean, I really do love this a lot.
I love that for you. And, you know, that's how you know you really are into it. And it's not just something that you're doing just to do because you're willing to fund it. So I wish you nothing but blessings. And I know it'll continue to be prosperous for you.
Thank you so much.
So what advice would you have, moving away from just general questions about the podcast, what advice do you have for full-time moms, new wives? What advice do you have for that 21-year-old bride who madly in love, ready to have some babies, maybe pregnant right now, planning for the future? What do you say to her?
Girl, Girl, there is so much that I say to you. First thing, and this is advice that I always give now when young women are getting, and not even just young women, even older women that are getting married for the first time. But one thing that I say, especially for a young bride, is don't lose yourself. Because that's something I see so much. And that's something that even happened with me because, again, I was a young woman getting married. I didn't know. I thought that you get into marriage, you become this wife, you become this mother, you begin to wear all of these titles, and you're supposed to do all of these things. But you forget you. I forgot Monique. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm PTA. I'm in these church ministries. I'm a employee. Like I'm doing everything for everybody else. But who am I? What do I like? What makes me happy? And I could not answer those questions for a long time. And I was looking in the mirror like, who are you? Like, who is this person looking back at you? So I would encourage you. My advice would be to you is not to lose yourself. Something that I talk about, y'all gonna hear me talk about the group a lot because a lot of these things that I'm talking about, I push in the group so much because it's going to be important to your relationship and your marriage. But self-care is so important because the more you take care of yourself, the more you remember who you are, the more you prioritize you find out what you like, you find out what you love, you remember who you are as an individual, as a person, the better you are, it will benefit your marriage. You'll be a better mom. When I'm a better Monique, I'm a better mom. When I'm a better Monique, I'm a better wife. So don't lose you. Remember who you are. Continue to do the things you love. If you loved going out with your girlfriends, shopping, continue to go out with your girlfriends and shop, but prioritize it. Don't let that take over your marriage or take over your responsibilities of being a mom, but continue to do those things and pour into you so that you can pour into others. Just don't forget about you. Don't lose yourself because your husband, your spouse, your partner, they fell in love with you as an individual. They fell in love with who you were back then. That's why you hear some men say, man, I miss my girlfriend. I miss who you were then. Because they like that. They enjoyed that. And so don't lose that. And another thing I would say is date your partner. Have fun together because we can get so busy and so caught up in the mundane, in the routine. We go to work, we come home, we take care of the kids, we make our meals, we do laundry, we may have sex, and we do the same thing, rinse and repeat every day. And that gets so boring for the man and the woman. That is so boring. But do the things that you guys were doing before, that excitement, that date night where you got dressed up, you were smelling good, he was opening doors, you guys were excited to see one another, you would send each other those little nice, sexy texts, all of the things that were just so exciting and so new and so sexy, still have fun together, still enjoy one another. That couple that you were before you got married and got so caught up into the routine of things. So yeah, that would be my best advice.
I love that. And it's so important, to continue to be who you are because that's who the person fell in love with. And that's something I think you can say to even us little more seasoned wives. All of us can use that advice, I think. All right, next question. So this question is coming from our wild card pot.
Okay.
Wild card question. The people want to know, what is Monique's favorite type of date night? So if Mr. Simmons wanted to wow you today, if he trying to get a favor or something, what does he need to do?
Girl, okay.
Wild card.
Okay, wild card question, favorite date night. Girl, because if y'all don't know me by now, if you've been rocking with me, I love a date night. I'm talking about okay, so to start it off, I love a spontaneous date night. I love a planned and I don't mean spontaneous where he just popped up and just randomly just threw something together. I mean, spontaneous meaning I didn't know about it. So I love for my husband to plan and initiate a date night that I had no parts in, because I can plan a lot of date nights because I love date nights. So I usually plan and initiate a lot of date nights. So I love when my husband plans, initiates, executes me with a date night, and it came out of nowhere. Like I wasn't expecting it. So that would be number one. And my favorite kind of date night, because I love a good road trip. Like I would get in my car and jump on the road. If we didn't have 3 kids, we would be on the road every weekend. I love this would be 2 of my favorites. If we gotta stay local and we don't have a babysitter, so we can't get on the road, I love a good bar hop. And I don't mean like bars where we're going in the club or something like that. So if those of you listening, that's not what I'm talking about. But I mean, like, we do this thing where we're going to have drinks, appetizers, dinner, and we may do dessert. So we'll go to like 3 different restaurants because I just like stuff like that. So we'll go to a spot, we'll have drinks there and maybe an appetizer. And then we'll go to another spot and we may share like a main course. And then if I'm up to it, we may go have dessert. If not, we'll go to another spot and have drinks, and that'll be our nightcap to end the night. And it's just so exciting. I feel like we girlfriend and boyfriend when we do stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It just does something for me. Like, oh, okay. So, but if we can get a sitter, this is Mr. Simmons, if you listening, I'm just saying, yes. I'm just saying, my absolute favorite. I love New Orleans. It's my favorite city ever. I would love a road trip to New Orleans. We don't even have to spend a night. We can come right back. But I love a trip to New Orleans. We can walk Frenchman Street, listen to the live music, pop in a few of the jazz restaurants and dance a little bit, have a drink or two, and I'm good. I can have me some beignets, some charbroiled oysters, and I'm good. Girl, that would blow my mind. That would just blow my mind. So yes, those are my favorite. Those are my favorite date nights.
Ooh, a little bit of free game. Okay, yeah. I love it. I love it.
I hope you guys have enjoyed. Follow me on Facebook at Demo with Mo. If you have any questions you would like answered here live on my podcast, email them to me at demowithmo@gmail.com. That's DEMOWITHMO@gmail.com.